In the meantime, on to another threat, or that is China, sending more surface-to-air missiles to the South China Sea. Of course, this on the heels of the Chinese already militarizing that area, stealing a U.S. reconnaissance sub that was supposed to be just, screening and mapping out the ocean floor. They eventually did promise to return that. I don't know if they formally have, but the fallout from this with Mark Serrano and Jonathan Hoenig. Mark, they are getting aggressive. What do you make of this?
I think it's, more pieces on the chessboard, Neil. Basically, we've had a period for decades of appeasing China, the largest consumer market in the world, the largest centrally controlled communist economy in the world, and we've appeased them. George Bush in 2006 started the U.S.-China strategic dialogue, and Obama continued it on. All we've had during that 10 years is talk. Now everybody needs to change their thinking because Donald Trump's going to actually negotiate. And so the Chinese obviously are responding. They're going to build out their military presence in that part of the world, and that's going to give them more bargaining chips. But we've got many bargaining chips of our own that we haven't been willing to use for a long time.
Apparently a lot of this started, and it depends on who you believe, Jonathan, with China expressing anger over some of the anti-Chinese appointments that Donald Trump was making. Peter Navarro is just the latest. But what do you make of that?
Well, China's not the only one expressing anger, Neil. It should be free individuals. I mean, they're the ones that trade and benefit from China. There's two ways of dealing with people, through trade or through force. Trade is the American way. So when Donald Trump talks about using trade as a bargaining chip, he's talking about using voluntary, mutually beneficial, win-win transactions from honest Americans. And this is how wealth is created, Neil. So for Donald Trump to want to target trade, I think shows a real ignorance for not only America, but for how American wealth is created.
Ignorance. And for the That's not ignorance, Jonathan. That's not ignorance. What he's doing is finally standing up to the Chinese. But are you saying, we have to have sort of mutually beneficial policies? We don't. The Chinese are liars. They're communists who don't want to deal with us on a fair basis. And they haven't had to because nobody's held them accountable.
Do you think then that, I do want to get your answer on this, Johnny, but I want to get Mark to clarify that the Chinese do rig their currency, that they don't play fair, that they do this to extract a real advantage in trade that has given them the economic advantage they have.
Yeah, most importantly, they keep their workers down, their laborers. They don't have fair labor practices, and that's what should be a part of negotiated trade deals, only because they've stolen a third of our manufacturing jobs since 1998. How do you correct that if you don't take a look at their labor practices?
All right, Jonathan, what do you think of that?
I mean, here is cronyism. This is we've got to help the steel workers and the manufacturers, and here's also essentially the justification for the Eastern European centrally planned economy, Neil. I mean, trade, again, benefits Americans. And think about how it's all.
But what if they're not playing fair, Jonathan? What if if you know of that they're not playing fair? Then what do you do?
Neil, the fact that they're not free, Neil, hurts their own people. It hurts the Chinese economy. But if
they're rigging their currency and getting a disproportionate shared trade advantage, that doesn't bother you?
No. Neil, if
you don't think you should respond if someone's not playing fair with you, you keep playing the same way?
Neil, they're not playing fair with their own citizens. They're devaluing their currency, Neil. They're hurting their own citizens.
I understand that, but they're hurting the relationship with us.
But I care about our citizens. What about American citizens?
Well, we can buy more things from China, and that savings is reinvested into new jobs. In a free economy, there's an unlimited amount of wealth. Basically, what you're saying is that China's communist, so we have to be communist as well to play fair.
They're stealing our jobs. I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I said they're stealing our jobs. We got to go and talk about their labor practices. They are stealing our jobs. That's most important.
That's collectivism. That's
you know what's not collectivism.
Ironic?
By going and talking to the Chinese and putting everything on the table.
All right, so John, one thing I do want to be, I hear where you're coming from, Mark, but John, the last thing I just want to be clear on, if you know the other guy is cheating, if you know the other guy is cheating.
They're not cheating. I don't accept that. I don't accept that they're cheating.
You don't think they're rigging their currency? You don't think they're stacking the deck?
Well, Neil, they are cheating their own people.
That's not what I asked you. You don't think they are rigging their currency and stacking the deck in their favor?
You know what I'm seeing, Neil? You know what I'm seeing is hypocrisy. I mean, folks like Mark was on our own air a year ago talking about Microsoft as a great creator of wealth. You don't think Microsoft outsources? You don't think Donald Trump buys things from overseas?
So let's change that. Let's change that in China.
The Chinese cheat?
they cheat their own people. Neil,
Okay,
they hurt their own
You're not going to answer
Cheating
me.
their
Mark,
people,
then what do you,
cheating
what
their
do you,
people.
can you go too far, Mark? Are you going too far with the vendetta?
It's Holly Smoot.
No, Neil. So what we want to do is we start by putting everything on the table. Donald Trump is a great negotiator. He's going to put everything on the table. He's not talking about cronyism. He's not talking about helping U.S. companies. He's talking about taking it to the Chinese.
And how would you respond to them militarizing these islands? How would you respond to them militarizing much of the South China Sea and more or less saying it's theirs?
So we're going to build up our military, right? He's going to talk about our nuclear
arsenal. Would you go to war
arsenal.
over that?
Yeah.
No, you don't have to. You don't have to go to war. Look, we're not going to have a trade war because Donald Trump's going to convince them.
I'm talking about a real war, life and death.
Of the better
men
way.
and women
I know. Trade war.
He threatens a trade war almost every day.
What would you do,
Jonathan?
Jonathan?
Trade war almost every day. Neil, let's try freedom. What do you say? We already have two government agencies that regulate trade. What is it? The Trade Representative and the Chamber of Commerce.
But there's
now
no
Donald Trump
freedom
is
in China.
He's introducing a new czar. I mean, this is a trade czar.
So would Jonathan Hoenig
respond?
Real quick, would Jonathan Hoenig respond to the militarization of the South China Sea the Chinese are doing as we speak?
Not with hurting Americans through trade. And, Neil, there's a historical precedence to this. Look up Smoot-Hawley. See how well trade tariffs...
I understand.
We're talking about a
But
communist
Smoot-Hawley was
country
not
who
about
controls their
militarizing
economy
operations
and their
abroad.
It was about
islands that you
trade
didn't
tariffs.
own.
It was
All
about
right.
trade tariffs, which is exactly what Donald Trump is advocating.
All right, I just think we're mixing, military
Economic and
political
power.
It's not
metaphors
about
here.
cronyism. It's about taking it to the Chinese, for Pete's sake.
All right, for
Our
Pete's sake.
jobs.
All right. Feel the love. All right, guys, I want to thank you both very, very much.